Hello, I'm Peter. If you ask me, my life feels like a challenging game, except there are no instructions or do-overs. Everything I've learned comes from falling down, failing, and sometimes facing wounds that never truly heal. My story begins when I was very young, 3 years old to be exact. That was when my mom left my dad. At the time, she had no other choice. My dad was a man she couldn't stay with any longer. I don't remember much about him. Memories from a 3-year-old are too vague to paint a clear picture, but I remember the feeling. A heaviness in our house, as if a dark cloud was always hovering over us. My mom took me away, just the two of us in a small suitcase. I was too young to understand her pain, but I could see it etched on her face. Mom worked any job she could to raise me. She waited tables, sewed clothes in a factory, and eventually cleaned at a hospital. I never heard her complain, but I saw the exhaustion. She would often fall asleep at the kitchen table after long days of work, but she still tried to spend time with me, helping me with my homework, telling me bedtime stories. Life for the two of us wasn't easy. Mom worked 2 jobs at once, waking up early and staying up late just to make ends meet. Yet, the bills never seemed to stop piling up. Rent, books, clothes. The list only got longer. I remember one evening clearly. Mom sat at the kitchen table counting loose change. The dim yellow light cast shadows on her tired face. She sighed, a small sound, but enough to break my heart. That was the first time I realized my mom wasn't a superhero, that even she could get worn out. I was only 6, but in my childlike mind, I thought I needed help. So I grabbed my crayons and wrote a letter applying for a job. "Dear McDonald's," I wrote, "I want to work to help my mom. I know how to clean tables and am very good at organizing toys." I held that letter proudly, thinking I'd solved all of our problems. But when I took it to the restaurant, the adults there just laughed. They laughed like my actions were a joke. I didn't understand. I only wanted to help my mom. When she found out, she didn't get angry. Instead, she pulled me into a tight hug, holding me so close I could hear her heartbeat.
"Peter,"
she said, her voice trembling with emotion.
"you don't have to do anything, just study hard. That's the best way you can help me."
Her words were etched into my mind, becoming the guiding principle of my life. From that day on, I threw myself into studying like my life depended on it, because in a way, it did. I wasn't just studying to make my mom proud. I knew it was the only way to escape the hardships we faced. Every day, I arrived at school earlier than anyone else, spending hours in the library until it closed. I told myself I couldn't waste time. Every book I read, every assignment I completed brought me closer to a better future for both me and my mom. My mom was just as determined. She worked overtime, taking any job she could find, no matter how demanding. But she always made time for me. Despite her exhaustion, she stayed up late to review my essays or listen to me practice my presentations, even when her eyes were heavy with sleep. When I was 15, I earned the highest grades in the district. That achievement brought me what my mom called a dream come true, a full scholarship to the most prestigious school in town. It sounded perfect, but in reality, it felt like throwing a poor kid like me into a world of wealth and privilege where I didn't belong. The school was beautiful. Immaculately paved pathways lined with neatly trimmed trees, surrounded by mansion-like houses. But I quickly realized that the beauty of the place was just a facade. The people here were cold, even cruel. On my first day, I met Eric, the school director's son, a boy as arrogant as he was powerful. While walking to class, I saw him push a younger kid off their bike, just because he felt like it. The kid cried, and Eric stood there, smirking with a sense of entitlement. I rushed to help the boy, picking up the bike and asking if he was okay. That's when Eric turned to me, his eyes full of disdain.
"New kid, huh?"
he said with a sneer.
"Don't you know who I am?"
I looked him straight in the eye and replied, "No, but I know you're the guy who just pushed a kid off his bike." That response was probably my biggest mistake. Eric smirked coldly, throwing me a look that sent chills down my spine. From that moment on, I became his target. For 4 years, Eric bullied me relentlessly. He gave me cruel nicknames, stole my books, and even spread rumors that I was the child of a con artist. Once, he pulled the fire alarm and blamed it on me. I was punished with a week's detention, and no one believed my side of the story. Every day at that school felt like a battle I didn't want to fight, but I refused to let Eric derail my goals. I kept studying, kept earning the highest grades, and that only made Eric hate me more. In those difficult years, I learned to hide my circumstances. My uniforms came from donation bins. I meticulously patched up every tear to make them look presentable. When classmates asked about my family, I lied, claiming my parents were busy entrepreneurs always traveling for work. I feared that if the truth came out, I'd be ostracized completely from this privileged world. Those lies became a mask I wore every day, but every night when I came home, stripped off the uniform, and looked in the mirror, I saw my true self. A tired, lonely Peter who was determined not to let anyone take away the future I was fighting for. Eric might try to break me, but I knew I couldn't give up. Every high grade, every test I aced was a step closer to escaping this oppressive world. And it was how I honored my mom's sacrifices. I couldn't let anyone, not even Eric, stand in my way. Then I met Jenna. She was like a beam of light shining into my life. A light I didn't realize I needed. Jenna was nothing like anyone else at this school. Jenna was beautiful, funny, and unbothered by what people thought of her. For some reason, she noticed me. We quickly became friends. Every time Jenna laughed, it felt like the weight of the world lifted from my shoulders. Around her, I didn't have to hide my circumstances or pretend to be someone else. I could just be Peter, and that seemed to be enough for her. But Eric, always intent on ruining my life, couldn't stand that Jenna cared about me. He followed me, and one day, he caught me rummaging through a donation bin for clothes. I didn't know he had recorded it until it was too late. During a school assembly, Eric played the video in front of everyone. Standing on stage, he wore a wicked smile.
Peter, you're not just poor, you're pathetic.
Laughter erupted across the auditorium. I stood there, feeling exposed, as if I'd been stripped bare before a sea of judgmental eyes. The anger inside me boiled over like a fire I couldn't contain. I stormed onto the stage and punched Eric square in the face. He fell to the ground, and for a moment, the room was silent. But then the whispers and laughter resumed. I was suspended for 2 weeks. At that point, it didn't matter anymore. I felt like my life was over. I locked myself away at home after the incident. I cut off all contact with the outside world, unable to face anyone. Even looking in the mirror became unbearable. Someone who couldn't protect himself, couldn't protect his mom, and now couldn't protect the one meaningful connection he had, Jenna. Shame weighed heavily on me. I wasn't just embarrassed in front of Jenna and my classmates, I was ashamed of myself. I had let my anger get the best of me. I had let Eric win. Every night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, asking myself the same questions. Where did I go wrong? Should I have stayed away from the school? Should I have kept my distance from Jenna so she wouldn't get dragged into my mess of a life? And the worst part, I didn't know if Jenna would ever want to talk to me again. After everything that had happened, I thought she'd avoid me, just like I was avoiding the world. But one afternoon, while I was sitting alone in our cramped apartment, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, there she was. Jenna stood in the doorway, her expression firm yet full of concern. Behind her, the peeling paint on the walls and the worn furniture in the background revealed the truth about my life. There was no hiding it anymore.
Why haven't you been answering me?
I lowered my head, unable to meet her gaze. Jenna, I'm poor. I have nothing to offer you. I'm not worthy of your friendship. My words didn't make Jenna angry. Instead, she smiled. A warm, reassuring smile that I would never forget.
Peter,
She said gently but firmly.
I don't care about what you have. I care about who you are.
I stood there, stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
You're smart, kind, and a true friend. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, especially not yourself.
Her words felt like a light piercing through the darkness. For the first time, I felt like I didn't have to wear a mask, didn't have to pretend. I could be myself, and that was enough. Our conversation that day didn't magically solve all my problems. Life doesn't work that way, but it was a turning point. Jenna had reminded me of my own worth, and that gave me the strength to start rebuilding.